There's a conversation that happens inside medical and law school admissions offices that most applicants never hear. It happens in committee rooms and in the margins of application files. It's the little moment a dean closes a folder and decides, I spent over 15 years in that room. This is GradMissions Office Hours. I'm Autumn Rains Lockett, and every week my team and I bring that conversation out into the open because the process was never meant to be a mystery, and your future is too important for guesswork. Let's get to work. It is high school graduation season, and so we thought we would take a few minutes and talk to our future clients when we would like to start thinking about law and med school. And that answer is right now. Like when you graduate from high school and honestly, if we could talk to you when you're choosing your undergrad, that would be helpful because some of them have an easier glide path to med and law school. But realistically, if you can have a game plan in mind, even if it's loose, before you step foot on campus in August to start your undergraduate experience, you are really setting yourself up to be a successful future doctor and lawyer.
Yes, absolutely. And not to give any more pressure to already, a super crazy season of wrapping up your high school years, moving into undergraduate, moving away from home. But there are things that you can be doing now that take the pressure off that junior and senior year when it's another season of transitions, when you're looking at, final capstones and exams and internships and, it's just a different kind of busy. And so being able to take some things now and do them well and set those systems in place, kind of like what we were talking about last week, as you're getting to start med or law school, putting some systems in place that help you make the load lighter so that you can show up fully confident and fully prepared for what's ahead. And some people may not know exactly that they want to be a prosecutor or they want to do this particular type of medicine, and you don't have to know that yet. But there are things that you can be doing in these early undergraduate years to really set yourself up for success in picking a law or med school.
Yes. Yeah. And I also want to talk to parents. A lot of times parents reach out to us in the DMs. They slide into our DMs and they're like, my darling wants to be a lawyer. What should they do? Or what kind of legal experience do they need to have? Or they start asking all these questions because, I would say probably 65-70% of our clients are the children of doctors and lawyers. And so even people who are in those positions don't really know what it takes these days because the admissions game has changed so much. And so we also want to talk to the parents who are, wringing their hands, wondering how they can really set up their kiddo for success.
Definitely. And I always want to little shout out to our non-traditional students as well.
Yes.
That's another thing. So our first gen students think, well, I'm not, a son or daughter of a lawyer or doctor. I don't know the process. Or I'm non-traditional. I'm not a K to J or K to MS1. And so I'm already behind. And that's not the truth. There's things that you can be doing now, even as a non-traditional student, to start setting yourself up for success and thinking through the processes of everything while you're working, managing a family, all of those things. So I think everyone, no matter what phase of life they're in, feels as if they're at a disadvantage. And we're here to give you the advantage. And that's our job. We've seen people in all phases of life and have walked them through the best steps for success.
I think, you hear it a lot when you go to orientation as a new student, especially either a parent or a new student, about what you need to do to be successful. And so some of this general information that we're going to share, you can use no matter what pathway you take, but there's some of it that's going to be really important for you as someone who's going on to a pre-professional, program after you finish your undergraduate. So yeah, I don't know if we're ready to jump in with some tips for the students and the parents, but I think the fact that you're here and that you're listening is a huge gold star for you.
Yes.
That you are paying attention and that you realize that the stakes are elevated at every new transition and every new level, and that you have some opportunity to learn some things that will benefit you in the future. And you're taking a minute out of your summer or your busy end of your spring to learn that. So first step, good on you. Always be learning, and look at you go already doing that.
Logan, were you going to say something? So I work with high school juniors and seniors and their parents and in other areas of my life. And I've worked with many a college freshman throughout my career. And I think in terms of like tips for what to focus on, there are two things that are at the top of my mind. One, developing those soft skills, which starts long before the end of high school. I mean, that starts, I have a toddler. I feel like I'm already starting the soft skills with my
Yes.
toddler. But at the top of the soft skills, and by soft skills, I mean, communication and time management, good grief. I mean, that is, couldn't we all have some help with some time management? For me, at the top of the list, though, is asking for help and advocating for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a skill, particularly in this window that is approaching end of senior year, beginning of college, when they're going out on their own, that this is the time to develop that skill, which then translates into this future application process for med and law school. It translates into law school and med school.
Mm-hmm.
No one cares more about your education than you do,
That's right.
which is a shift because I would say that K through 12, your parents cared about your education probably more than you did. It's hard to see the forest for the trees in K through 12.
And your teachers, there's a whole administration who has to
Yes.
report back on your success.
Standards, yes. Yes, yes. So this is a shift in, how someone would previously approach their education. There would always be someone there to try to make sure you're doing the right thing. And now it's up to you. And, these application processes aren't totally straightforward. I mean, think about the med application. And I mean,
It's
if
great
you,
job security.
yeah,
Say,
right. I
really,
mean, if you're applying to med school and you're a Texas resident, but you don't want to limit yourself to only Texas schools, and you know that you need a balance of, MCAT range, you're applying through three separate platforms. I mean,
Common App times 3, baby.
and granted, we have Google is a great resource. AI can be a great resource for trying to like demystify what's happening. But at the end of the day, the best way to know you're doing the right thing is to contact someone directly
Yeah.
and ask the question, I'm going to do this. Is that correct? Or do you have any suggestions on how I can meet this requirement that you have or whatever it is? Advocating for your own future is a skill to develop. And what kind of goes along with that, other than just developing that soft skill, is finding experiences. Experiences aren't just going to land in your lap. The way you're going to figure out what you want to do with your future in a low stakes environment is to collect experiences. And those experiences, again, a shift from K through 12, aren't necessarily just going to be handed to you. Sometimes you have to go out and like scavenge for them and find them. And I mean, I hate to say it, but you might have to make a phone call.
You really might. Yeah, it's called networking. And you don't, I think about elementary school, especially, right? You rotate and you're like, at least every other day, you're going to have PE, you're going to have art, you're going to have music, you're going to have, computer class, you're going to go to these different labs and things. And in undergrad, you're going to be busy, but that's the standard. Everyone's going to be busy. So what are you going to do to differentiate yourself? This is especially true. I know you're talking activities and experiences, you're talking about the med school app, but this is also true in the law school space. True that you don't need a lot of legal experience to apply to law school. Like, it's not imperative for the admissions game. It sure is super helpful for that 1L summer job hunt, though. If you've got something on your resume, even if it's volunteer, even if it's campus activities and leadership and things like that, so important for you to plug in. And going across the aisle, med and law, why don't, if you're a student going to undergrad this year for the first time, you just graduated high school, why don't you just assume that you're going to need a strong GPA for whatever you do at the end of this? I cannot tell you how many people we work with who think, well, I didn't know I was going to go to law or med school someday, so I didn't think my GPA would matter. Let's just assume That if we're going to spend tuition dollars on an education, that GPA is going to matter. Can we just start there?
So, yes, with that and with what Logan is talking about, picking up the phone to call for, job offers or experiences, darkening the door of your professor's office.
Yes.
So I meet with students in what we call our admissions accelerator. They're underclassmen and undergrad. And that's the first piece of advice that I give them. And they look at me like I have three eyes. I'm like, go to office hours. Like Logan was saying, advocate for yourself, ask questions, and ask for help. You may not be getting as many quizzes and, as much feedback as you would get in your high school days. In college, you really need to check in with those professors to see, how things are going. And you're not the only one who may be struggling with the concept in undergrad. You're not going to be the only one who struggles with a concept in law school. And so get used to asking for help, asking for feedback, asking how you can improve. Like Logan said, that's just a great life skill in general, in the workplace, but then also in the academic setting. So really the main focus, I know you're super excited. You may want to rush, you may want to join some student orgs, you may want to be looking for some internships already, but the main focus that you need to have right now is getting systems in place so that you can perform extremely well academically. And I'm not saying that you need to be competitive, but be capable, be
Oh, that's
receive
good.
receive feedback. You don't have to be number one. You don't judge everyone around you. Focus on you and how you can improve and maybe some blind spots that you have so that you can be academically excellent and you can be teachable.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do so much work around teachability in kind of essay writing and helping students share the experiences that showcase their teachability, that showcase their curiosity. So I think a lot of our students who start out, I know I want to do pre-med or pre-law as an undergraduate, you're high achievers. Like you probably already did really well in high school and you expect to do really well in college. And sometimes I think high achievers think that means that they can do something without help. So to Logan's
Mm.
point and kind of Lizanne's curiosity, like not just asking, for help of learning campus. We're talking about raise your hand in class when you don't understand what the professor is saying. That may feel like the biggest ask in the world for you to identify yourself as someone who doesn't understand something that's going on in the lecture. But if you don't know, the person who's, three laptops down on Amazon doesn't know either. And so it doesn't matter. You're there for your education. And so raise your hand, ask questions. You want to be able to have instructors who at the end of your time in undergraduate can write you a letter of a recommendation and talk about when you came in their office hours and you were struggling with a concept and how teachable you were and how curious you were and how what a great student you're going to be in law school or med school. Like those are things that you want to have as an outcome. So if it helps with the ego of maybe having to raise your hand and ask questions for the first time or admit that you don't understand something for right away for the first time, then think about it in that term. But also you're paying a lot of money for undergraduates. So you should have questions. It should be hard. You shouldn't just show up and perform and then get a piece of paper, right? That's not a growth experience. So it should be hard. And if you can kind of embrace that across the board and ask those hard questions, not just like, where is this office or can I get some extra credit? But show them this is where I got stuck doing this problem. Can you help me with the next step? So I think, kind of knowing what to ask your professor in office hours or what to look for and flag in your notes and take in, it's so important than just going on your own as a life skill, but also you're going to need them to be able to talk about that moment, to talk about your teachability later.
I think that's such a good segue. Also, like this relationship with a professor and showing up in their office hours, that's such a good segue into being able to build relationships with adults,
Mm.
which is, to be fair, a skill some people are born with. let's give it up for the only children out there. Tiny adults from the day they were born.
Give it up for Logan, everybody. Older sisters too, I'll just say.
Yeah, the elder sister.
As I pop my collar.
Yes.
Those of us who are mature for our age.
Right.
Yes.
Pleasure to have in class. That's you.
Yes.
Pleasure to have in class. Yes. Yes, yes. Some people are born this way. But that's such a good opportunity to build a relationship with an adult. I think that's the best way to start a relationship of this nature sometimes, which is, go in with genuine curiosity or asking for help. Like, that's such a great way to ingratiate yourself to someone, right? Is to come with humility to say, like, I just was hoping that we could talk about this particular thing. And then you don't know what comes from that, right? But, introducing yourself, that is an important thing to know how to do, which I've seen many a college freshman who did not know how to introduce themselves, who, when I would say, "What's your name?" they would look at their mom. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
maybe we just pause here, speedy quick. We've actually entertained like a
professionalism.
Yes, we've actually thought about doing like an etiquette and professionalism workshop, because I think it is sort of a lost art. And I realized that COVID was a great separator and there was a lot of social atrophy during that time. But just a speedy, quick thing, whether it's virtual or in person, when you encounter someone for the first time and there's going to be some kind of an exchange, it is a polite thing to do to stick out your right hand if you're in person, or to at least give a little friendly wave like this and say, "Hi, I'm Autumn Lockett. It's so nice to meet you." Say your name. Say your first and last name. No shade, but like, I can't tell you how many times I pop onto a strategy call and I'll say, we offer a free 20-minute call where we can talk about your med or law school application. I'll be like, "Hi, I'm Autumn. It's so nice to meet you." Crickets. Or they'll say, "Hi." And I'm like, okay, like, I know your name is written in the box, but like, it's just a polite thing to go ahead and say your first and last name. It sort of like builds that flow. Okay, this is a back and forth. This is a give and take. So first and last name, look at their eyeballs, a firm handshake, but don't crush my bones if it's in person. That's such a good way to start.
Yes, absolutely. What a good point. I mean, and a lost art to some extent.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But now is the time, especially for in-person, right? I mean, in-person is a lost art for sure.
Yes.
Yep. Asking good questions. That is a skill that goes along with making relationships with adults. Showing gratitude. Thank you for your time. Depending on what the action was, a follow-up thank you note or something like that. And then maintaining the relationship over the long term, because those are going to be your letter writers.
Yep.
That is why that skill is important. Of course, it's an important skill to be a functioning human in society. But in this particular context, those adults at college that you form a relationship with, those are going to be your letter writers on this next step in the journey.
That's right.
And not every college has a pipeline for research opportunities. And so your action step to get into a research opportunity, if you're gonna go med school especially, is to ask your professor, what research are you doing? Do you have room in your lab for a volunteer, or is there opportunity? How do I get started in your lab? How do I get started in helping in your research? That you may have to ask that question face to face to get that opportunity. It may not just be laid out for you.
That's right. A couple of professors that I would really highlight, and I'll bifurcate these into med and law. If you are thinking about law school, I always say, and this is statistically backed, taking reading and writing intensive classes has to be really high on your agenda. That's not to say if you're an engineer, you can't go to law school, but if my own child was going to law school, I would have them really make sure that they're not avoiding reading and writing intensive classes. I want you to take as much philosophy as you possibly can, and I want you to take as much statistics as you possibly can. I also want you to take any classes in the course catalog that have the word law in them. I don't care if it's law and entertainment or business law or, the law of whatever it is. Like, if it has the word law in it. The reason I say philosophy and statistics is because that giant test, the LSAT, was developed by philosophers, and statisticians. It really has nothing to do with the law itself. And so if you have had a semester or two worth of a professor, a professional taking you through those concepts, yes, you should still do an LSAT prep course, but you are going to have a really great scaffold for being a successful pre-law student. On the med side of the house, I really think that statistics is the one class that sort of bridges across those, because we see PIs looking for people who know how to interface with data. And so anything in the statistics realm is going to be super helpful. Obviously, biochem is my bae. It is so important for you to do well there. If you can take biochem with a lab, even better. If you're in the UC system and you're only having a quarter of biochem, if you can take 2/4 of biochem, that would be great. So those professors, and if you're in the science, if you're applying to med school, your science and math professors are even more important to you, because those are the classes that BCPM, that science GPA, comes from. And we know if you have a better relationship with those professors, the better you're going to do in the class, the better you're going to understand those concepts. So that would be my sort of strategy across the board if I was thinking law or I was thinking med. Anything to add there, Logan and Lysanne?
I'm going to ask if this is a good time to bring up your hot take on BSMD.
Oh, you want me tar and feathered today on this very day, don't you? BSMD is a racket, and I'm sure there are some great programs out there. I have not heard about them yet. So the clients who we interface with who started out applying to a BSMD program do not end up matriculating at that med school. And it's either number one, because that med school was not at the level that they are. So like they have a much better MCAT score, a much better GPA, and they ended up getting into a med school that was way better academically for them or research-based for them. Or the school has so many strange little hidden things that you don't know about that will preclude you from being eligible to matriculate automatically to that med school. So you end up just in the general population of applicants. And I have people, typically the people who argue with me about this online are the parents and the students who are freshmen and they're entering their BSMD program. And the people who are like, heck yes, are the people who have just been completely snowballed by the BSMD process. I want you to be aware that there's a lot of trickery, and make sure you've read the fine print. The most recent one is a reapplicant who we have new to us this cycle, and she was a part of a school's BSMD program, and she had to maintain a certain GPA. She has an incredible GPA, like almost a 4.0, but one semester she got a B, and that they don't take the overall GPA for the qualification. It's semester by semester. And if you have one semester that falls below that, you're out. You're no longer considered. She didn't know that going in. And so now she's applying general population.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's just so much we could say about how to prepare.
We might need a part 2 of this, like how to get ready for law in med school.
Yeah, there is so much. But if you have questions, we need to wrap up for the day. But we would love to talk with you. Parents are welcome to sit in on our discovery calls with Autumn.
We encourage it.
Yes. So slide into our DMs, as Autumn was saying, or go to gradmissions.org to book a free 20-minute discovery call with us. We'd love to talk with you. Like I said, we work with students that are graduating from high school, and it's really a sweet spot to get yourself prepared for your future as a doctor or a lawyer. So that's it for today, but we'll keep our lights on socials, and we hope to see you there. Bye, everybody.
Bye, all.
Bye.